Ever wondered what happens when a patriarch sends his wife servant away twice? When a king marries a queen who worships false gods? Or when a man's faith leads him to marry a hooker? What about the tragic love triangle that tore a family apart? Or when a man marries the wrong sister and his family's drama becomes a holy mess? In the Bible, some marriages are more about conflict than love, and the consequences? Devastating. Welcome to 6 of the worst marriages in the Bible. Let's dive in.
First, a family drama that proves three's a crowd, especially when one of them is a servant given as a substitute wife. This is Abraham, father of faith. Also, father of some truly avoidable family drama. Abraham and his wife Sarah are old, like really old, and childless. God promised Abraham descendants as numerous as the stars, but the clock is ticking. Sarah, taking matters into her own hands, as people often did back then, for better or usually worse, offers her Egyptian slave girl, Hagar, to Abraham to have a child through her. Abraham says something like, "Well, if you insist," Hagar becomes pregnant. Sarah instantly regrets everything. She treats Hagar so harshly that Hagar flees into the desert, then met by an angel in the wilderness, who tells her, "Good news, you're having a son. Bad news, he's going to be very difficult." That son? Ishmael, the forefather of many nations. Also, the origin of some long-running theological footnotes. Eventually, Sarah has her own miracle baby, Isaac, because apparently divine timing is a thing. But the damage? Done. Suddenly, there's one too many heirs. Sarah sees Ishmael laughing, maybe mocking, maybe just breathing wrong, and demands they both be exiled. This time, Hagar doesn't run. She's pushed. Abraham consults God. God says, essentially, listen to your wife. He does. This time, if being cast into the wilderness once is tragic, being cast into it twice by the same man is a franchise. He gives Hagar some bread, a bit of water, and zero explanation. Then sends her and Ishmael into the desert. An angel intervenes. Again, God hears the boy's cry, provides water, and quietly makes good on the promise no one talks about. Ishmael becomes a people. Not the chosen people, but still impressive given the circumstances. This wasn't a marriage built on love, but on a desperate attempt to fulfill a promise through human means. It's a classic case of be careful what you wish for, and the devastating consequences of bringing a third party into the core relationship out of impatience or lack of faith. Also, maybe don't give your spouse your servant and expect everyone to just get along. He fell in love at first sight, worked 7 years for her hand, got married, then woke up next to her sister. Yes, the Bible has a surprise wedding swap subplot. Jacob loved Rachel. Rachel's father, Laban, strikes a deal, works 7 years for her hand in marriage. Jacob agrees no negotiation, which tells you how down bad he really was, but he married Leah, who is described less flatteringly, by accident. Laban's excuse? It is not the custom in our country to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older, a detail that somehow slipped through 7 years of conversations. Jacob is furious but loves Rachel so much that he agrees to work another 7 years for her. Congratulations, he's now married to 2 sisters. Rachel is loved but barren. Leah is fertile but unloved. They start naming children like passive-aggressive journal entries. Leah has 4 sons in a row. Names include, "Now maybe he'll love me," "God has seen my misery," and "At least I have this child." Rachel, in a move copied straight from Abraham's playbook, gives her maid to Jacob. Leah, never one to be outmaneuvered, does the same. Eventually, Rachel has a son, Joseph. You may know him from that musical about Technicolor outerwear. So what do you get when you combine 1 man, 2 wives, 2 side wives, and 0 inner peace? The 12 tribes of Israel. Maybe double check which sister you're marrying before the wedding night. This one actually starts sweet. Michal, King Saul's daughter, genuinely falls for the young, heroic David. Now, Michal's dad, King Saul, is not exactly thrilled with David. David's winning battles, winning hearts, and taking all the spotlight. But here's the twist. Saul, in an attempt to neutralize the growing threat that David posed, decides to offer his daughter Michal's hand in marriage. Saul even uses her as bait, demanding 100 Philistine foreskins as a dowry. David, being David, brings 200. It's a love match, sort of, born amidst political intrigue. So, here's where it gets spicy. Michal, despite the whole father versus future husband dilemma, actually helps David escape from Saul's death squad. Michal lowers David out of a window, smuggles him out in the night, no big deal, right? And to top it off, she tricks Saul's men by putting a household idol in David's bed, covering it with a blanket, and claiming David's too sick to come out. That's loyalty, folks. But here's the plot twist after all that drama, Michal's big reward: a complete lack of reward. Saul, the ever-gracious father, pulls a fast one. He takes Michal back from David, marries her off to someone else. Yep, Michal's basically swapped out like an old pair of shoes. I'm not sure David's the only one who's been betrayed here. So David's on the run from Saul, fighting for his life, while his wife, his first wife, is handed off to another man. And it gets better. When David finally becomes king, he demands Michal back. Fast forward, David is bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. He's so overcome with joy, he's dancing and leaping with abandon, wearing nothing but a linen underpants. Michal watches from a window, and she is not impressed. She confronts him, dripping with sarcasm, basically calling him trashy for exposing himself like that in front of the servant girls. David fires back, reminding her that he was dancing before God, who chose him over her father's house. From genuine affection to utter contempt, this moment is brutal. David's passion is spiritual. Michal's concern is royal dignity and appearance. It's the ultimate, "you're embarrassing me" argument, but with divine implications. And the result? The text tells us Michal had no children to the day of her death, a barrenness that symbolizes the death of their relationship. So yeah, love faded into disdain, and David went on to bigger and better things like marrying other women. Ah, the joys of royal family life. Meet Ahab, king of Israel. Not exactly the best king ever. More like the meh, he's fine, if you like bad decisions. His reign? Not great. The guy's more vibe checking the throne than actually ruling. But don't worry, he has a partner in crime. Enter Jezebel. The only woman in the Bible who could rival Cleopatra for biggest impact on everything, for better or worse. Jezebel was the daughter of a king. And Ahab? A bit of a pushover. Put them together, and you get one of the Bible's most dysfunctional power couples. Ahab wanted a vineyard. Naboth had a vineyard. Ahab wanted Naboth's vineyard. Not for any noble reason, just real estate envy. But Naboth being, a person wasn't keen on selling his family's land. Ahab sulks, lies in his bed, won't eat. Enter Jezebel, who enters the room like the true villain she is. Jezebel does what any good wife would do. She arranges a false trial, gets Naboth falsely accused of blasphemy, and has him stoned to death. Because why wouldn't you commit murder over a vineyard? Ahab gets the vineyard. He's happy, doesn't ask questions, just enjoys the V-over, a body count. God sends Elijah, the prophet, to deliver a message. You're doomed, and your wife, she'll be eaten by dogs. Ahab eventually dies in battle hit by a random arrow. Classic Old Testament karma. Jezebel? Tossed out a window. Dogs take care of the rest. He was spineless. She was bloodthirsty. Together, they made monarchy look like a war crime with matching robes. They could have ruled wisely. Instead, they murdered a guy for a backyard upgrade, picked a fight with a prophet, and got eaten by dogs and destiny. Just a thought for your next political alliance. You thought one or two spouses were complicated? Hold my crown. Let's talk about a king who took the concept of more the merrier to an absolutely insane level. Solomon starts strong. God offers him anything. He chooses wisdom, humble, smart, good start. He writes Proverbs, builds the temple, becomes rich, respected, feared. Kings visit to hear him speak. Queens show up just to flirt. Then the wives arrive. One here for an alliance, another for a treaty, till he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Yes, you heard that right. 1,000 women. Forget managing a household. This was managing a small city. Because when you've mastered diplomacy, Why not sleep with it? Most of these marriages were political alliances. Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, Hittites. If a nation had a princess, Solomon had her number. That's not a marriage. That's a foreign policy problem disguised as a honeymoon suite. There was just one rule: don't marry people who worship other gods. Solomon did not follow this rule. He built temples for his wives' gods on the hills, near Jerusalem, for Molech, for Ashtoreth, for the full pantheon. He built God a house, then forgot who lived there. The people follow his lead. Because when your king prays to 6 gods before breakfast, so do you. So God gets angry. Not just smite one person angry, rip the kingdom in half angry. And after Solomon dies, that's exactly what happens. Israel splits. Rehoboam takes the throne, immediately fumbles the bag. Solomon had wisdom, wealth, and 1,000 women. He lost his focus, his legacy, and eventually, his kingdom. Proof that you can be the smartest man alive and still make very dumb marriage decisions. Because holy matrimony wasn't always that holy. Okay, this one is weird from the start. Here's a marriage that makes people stop and say, wait, what? When God called Hosea to be a prophet, he didn't send him to speak first. He sent him to marry. God tells him, go, marry a promiscuous woman and have children with her. Seriously, God? Yes, that woman was Gomer. Not exactly the love story anyone dreams of, but it wasn't about romance. It was a living, breathing, painful metaphor for God's relationship with unfaithful Israel. And Gomer delivers on the promiscuous part. She is repeatedly unfaithful, running off with other lovers. Hosea, under divine instruction, has to go after her. At one point, he finds her apparently being sold into some form of servitude or debt slavery, and he has to buy her back with silver and barley. Imagine the awkward transaction. Yes, I'd like to purchase my wife. Again, you just want to shake Gomer and ask, what are you doing? It wasn't a happy ending in the usual sense, but it was holy. Hosea's love wasn't about romance, it was about mercy. Painful, persistent, undeserved mercy. It's a story of relentless grace in the face of repeated betrayal. It's not a marriage to admire, it's a marriage to learn from.
If this biblical drama kept you watching, go ahead, hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and unlike most marriages in this series, it's a commitment that actually works. Got a terrible biblical relationship we missed? Drop it in the comments. We're always taking nominations for the next disaster.